Hello, welcome to Hip Talk, the podcast where we talk about all the new cool features and innovations coming to the Hedera network. My name is Keith Cole, and I'm a product manager at Hashgraph. And joining me today is Ty Smith, a fellow product manager at Hashgraph, and Michael Kantor, president of Hashgraph Online. Welcome to both.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Always excited to talk about HIPs and HIP process and HIP 991.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Thanks for queuing that up. Today, we're going to be talking about a very exciting topic that I know a lot of people in the community are really interested in, and that's permissionless revenue generating topic IDs for topic operators. A long title, but in short form, we call HIP 991, and that's probably the term what we're going to be calling it a lot during this conversation. This HIP has been, again, I think opens up a lot of exciting opportunities for people using Hedera Consensus Service, which is, I know, a service that all three of us are very passionate about. So let's just kind of dive into it. You guys, both of you are the authors of this HIP. So maybe I can start with Michael. What was the motivation for this HIP? What was the need you saw on that maybe something we were missing in Hedera Consensus Service that you felt was needed?
Yeah, with HIP 991, I think the biggest thing was that they're kind of walking backwards from what the Hedera Consensus Service can do today. Like today, you can create a topic and you can put ordered messages on it. And you can either make it public, where anyone can write anything to it, or you can make it gated through a submit key, which means only certain parties can write information to it. But if you wanted to create a system where somebody actually had to pay you to write on that topic, it wasn't possible today. And the use cases that we were thinking about were kind of like grant. So for example, you're operating a forum and you want somebody to pay you to put your post inside of the thread, right? Like an advertising thing where you've got today we've got advertising platforms that are quite centralized. What if you could create a decentralized advertising platform? What would that look like? Especially considering when you've got unstructured data and somebody has to pay to put things in. Other ideas that came to mind were like, well, you can post to these advertising platforms, post to forums, you can enable governance and voting, etc. And if we had some kind of capability similar to the Hedera token service, where a creator of a topic can actually specify the amount of fees that are required to do that, then we could accomplish those use cases. On the bigger side of it, it's thinking about, well, what else does this open up? And our context for Hashgraph Online, one of the things that we do best is we create these registries where you can essentially submit information. That information might be a schema, it might be a file, it might be something else. And in order to get on that registry before HIP 991, what we would have to do essentially is create our own backend service that manages the key. So somebody wants to include their file in the registry, they pay us 5 HBAR through a transaction, and then we have a service that's to constantly look for new transactions. And once it sees that it's approved, then it goes and uses a submit key to put that information into a topic. But what if we can get rid of all of that backend infrastructure and make it a single step? What if we could have single step monetization? You just pay to submit your message and put your file in the registry. Well, now you don't need all those backend services just to put that data in there.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, we didn't start like the concept of custom fees. We're now starting from zero. We already had this concept built in tokens. So maybe Ty, can you kind of explain, first of all, we already kind of had custom fees and tokens. When you kind of start thinking, outlining the high level features for this new HIP 991, how did you think about like leveraging maybe some stuff we had, and then what additional kind of high level features did we want to have for this new capability?
Yeah. So the focus is like decentralized monetization of compute. It's a really broad term, but so how do you like even just say like NFT mints as a thing that's like pretty analogous in communities and in Web3. When you have a topic ID that takes in custom fees, that's all you need to expose. And then everyone who submits a message, it's fair ordered by the consensus of Hedera. So like even if it's like a Ticketmaster thing, you have this ability of both collecting funds and executing an understanding of the order without having, it's all provable public, and then you just refund the people at the end of the topic. And you're like, oh, okay, we'll have to pause the topic and then delete or refund the people at the end. When we're thinking about all of the use cases, the coolest part about custom fees, and we were inspired by the token service, the token custom fees. We have the royalty fee, that's really cool, fixed fees. And so what if you could also use fungible tokens that are only for your community, right? So expanding not just the custom fees for the HBAR, which Kantor really described beautifully, like businesses just had to build a bunch of Web 2 to get a Web 3 payment, and that felt wrong. So it's like, well, why wouldn't Web 3 just connect things, and then instead of a bunch of transactions back and forth, it's literally one way will complete both the commerce that both agree on because you're submitting to it and this person set it up, and that person knows they're already paid, so they're going to do whatever they need to do when that message is there. So adding fungible tokens to that, if you have gated communities, token gated communities, a fungible token in a DAO, and you need that to vote, it's 100 of that token to vote, and now you have this voting structure. It just allows a lot more decentralized communication, and utilizing the token service in HBAR, that can be monetization of service, or that can be vote for a consensus of a bunch of decentralized people or agents or whatever it is. So the fact that we had the custom fee service on the network is what inspired us to say, well, what if we just kind of like pulled that feature set, a subset of it, because you can't do royalties on the topic, but the fixed fee feature set, and we enabled both fungible tokens and HBAR to be on this topic. And I'm really excited about it. I do think this is a really cool it's an innovative paradigm that I don't know exists in other Web3 ecosystems if it does. And so we're just really excited to see it be utilized by the community.
It doesn't, and I don't think, I still think even today there's nothing that comes close to Hedera consensus service on any other ecosystem.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think we can. It's a really unique and compelling service. So why don't we start going a little bit deeper into the journey? So I want to break the kind of the mechanics of HIP 991 into two pieces. I think there's the piece for where the operator kind of sets up this construct for a topic, and then there is how a user interfaces with this custom fee topic. So maybe we could start with you, Michael. What does the process look like when I, as an operator, want to create one of these topics with custom fees? How does that, because maybe some people have a basis in how Hedera consensus service works today, but where do we extend things?
Let's say that you want to create a fee generating topic, right? What does that look like? So the first step is you create a topic, create transaction, and you would define a fee schedule key. So Hedera has this concept of keys, which is really cool. And the idea is that a key gives you permission to do a certain thing, right? Like all keys do. With the fee schedule key, that key enables you to define fees on your topic. And later on, it allows you to go and change those fees if you'd like to something else, right? So I might decide, okay, I'm going to charge 1 HBAR to submit to this topic initially. And then I might think back, well, I want to switch back. I want to also add a fee in a token. So you pay me 1 HBAR, and then you pay me 1 pack token or something like that in addition to this fee. So you keep that key, you store it somewhere safe. Or if you want, you can also set that key to your account's public key. So you don't have to memorize it, because if you already have your public key, that means you can automatically sign for this transaction later on. So you set your fee schedule key. Then you go and you define what kind of fees you have on the topic. So they're similar to the Hedera token service. You can import these classes called these fixed fee classes, and you just click, you write add fee with the fixed fee class, and you define which fees that you want. So if you've ever created an NFT collection before, it's going to be almost 1-to-1 to set these fees onto the topic. And then you just go and you can either submit that transaction, or if you want, the other thing that is a little bit different between the HTS service and the topic service with HIP 991 is you also have a list of fee exempt accounts. So by default, your account is exempt, right? Because you're generating the topic. It would be weird if you had to pay to submit to it. But you can also define a list of a bunch of other accounts that are also exempt from paying fees on this topic. Maybe it's your buddy who's a moderator of that topic to put certain things in the registry and they shouldn't have to pay, right? So you can set that up, and it's if I recall, it's a list of public keys that you set into that array, which enables that functionality. Then you just go and submit that transaction like you would with any other transaction. And once it's up as a user, it works similar to any other message submit transaction. So I, as a user, let's say I created a topic, which is a registry for storing file links, right? And then on the website, you go and display those links from the topic. So I created this topic and I set a 1 HBAR fee and a 1 pack fee. Now a user goes to my website and they click the button, submit a transaction. Automatically, when I submit that transaction, it'll debit the 1 HBAR and 1 pack token from my account. And the topic itself, when the transaction is submitted, will divvy out where those fees go based on the collector account that you set in your fixed fee transaction.
Thank you so much for that. And then Ty, let's go to the other side. So now that this custom fee topic has been created, I am a user that wants to interact with that topic. What does that process look like?
Once there's a topic that you know that you want, like let's just use Ticketmaster as a concept. So Ticketmaster has a new topic ID, and they're or just buying tickets for a concert, no brand. There's a topic ID, and you just submit messages to it, and you see on the fee that there is a 10 HBAR fee for you to submit a message. There is a security mechanism that we've built in for submitting messages. The default, if you don't add it, is you accept the fee. And so if there is a fee that someone has that has 10,000 HBAR, you don't look at the fee and you just send a message, you're agreeing, it's okay, I'm going to pay that fee. So be very cautious of the topics you're launching or you're submitting to. And I would always recommend just have like a boilerplate 5 HBAR or whatever you're okay with spending in all of your message submits to any external topic you're not sure of. And then you'll just get a failure of like, oh, you can't take that fee. I think that's the most important thing to call out, is that there is a safety mechanism, but it's not on by default. And we recommend you do it. But Michael touched on a little bit, the fee schedule key where you can move, I think is really powerful for when you're trying to peg something to USD, but you're using a different denominating factor, or a liquidity pool pair, and you're trying to change every day. You're going to change the pair change, and that's how much it costs to send. So the versatility of being able to change the fee at command on the key, and that key being a threshold key, which 2 accounts could control the fee change. You can kind of decentralize, democratize the update of the fee. It's hard not to continue to kind of fractal out into all of the crazy use cases that these bring up. So I'll try to bring it back into like the main solid one. But it's, as a user, you find a topic, look to see if there's a custom fee, always have your security 5 HBAR, 1 HBAR, whatever it is. And then it's as simple as you send the message and then look at your wallet and you'll see that the custom fee has gone out to the other provider of the topic or whatever. We didn't go too far over that, but fixed fees can be a percentage of the payment. So you can have 6 accounts that all get different percentages of the fee that's on the topic. So again, versatility is baked into this thing. It's really horizontal. You can go and look, send one message, go and look at the transaction. You can see where the money went, and that person who's providing you that service now has your message and knows you've paid just because it exists. And then from that, you should get the service in which that you were promised based on that topic from the decentralized entity.
And just, obviously we're in early days of HIP 991, but on that beginning stage of, looking at a topic and seeing its relevant custom fees, I guess you would use a tool like Hashscan to view the topic and get that information.
It's in Hashscan, which is really cool. So you pop in the topic ID and you can see it immediately. But it's also it's in the Marinode REST API. So when you call the topics endpoint, there is a custom fees field, and that gives you all the fees that are on the topic itself. So I think like as a implementation side, like the way that Hashgraph does it is good, but also like applications that utilize HIP 991. I think eventually we should come up with maybe like an information HIP or something that provides UX patterns that work really well with us. Like for example, a user is about to submit, display a modal that shows, what fees are on the topic just so they know what they're about to submit on their side, that kind of thing.
So, building new features and innovations in Hedera is great, but, what's even better is all the things that those new features and innovations can enable. So I think like when it comes to HIP 991, there's like 1,000 things that we're excited about that we think the new feature set could enable. But I'm going to start with, could we each just choose one kind of use case that we're really excited about that we think, where HIP 991 is going to make a big impact? So I'm going to start with you, Kai. What's your use case of choice?
Yeah, I'm going to steal Kantor's, I'm sure. I think AI agents and agentic computing and decentralization is really, this really brings everything into the Hashgraph when it comes to the ability to find each other decentralized. We have the open convey protocol that was created by Hashgraph Online. And then once you've created a connection and you want to do something, they can exchange monetary communications on HIP 991. And I think the coolest part, again, is that the key structure of Hedera is so beautiful and unique that these submit keys could have 18 different nodes. It could have a swarm of nodes communicating. You could have a sub-swarm of nodes communicating on a different topic and another topic that takes the state of those two topics. And it's just, again, it's easy to fractal into the usability of what this unlocks, especially when you have an AI agent that's not it's not restricted by human consciousness. So it's, on all the time and is always doing logical execution. When you give them the power of this decentralized monetization of service or communication or whatever they're trying to do, I think humans and I will be surprised, and Michael will be surprised on what agents decide to do with 991 that we really aren't thinking of, just because, their mental model is a computer, not an organic brain. So, yeah, sorry, Michael. I'm pretty sure that would be yours too, but you asked me first.
All right. Well, Michael, maybe you can expand on that one or choose the new application.
No, actually, I think that was great, and I actually pulled up the documentation from HCS10, aka Open Convey, and as Patches is talking about, like HIP 991, it works really, really well with Open Convey, and we're happy to see that it's actually HIP 991 is now on mainnet in time for the hackathon, so developers will actually be able to use this on testnet and mainnet for their applications that they submit. And the coolest thing is like you have these two agents that have agreed to talk to each other, and they've created a topic that has a threshold key where only they can submit messages. Now, the creator of the topic, which might be running on a large language model, maybe it's ChatGPT, Claude, or something even local, right? They might decide, well, I'm going to give this person access to talk to me, but I'm going to charge them every time they talk to me because it costs me compute to go and do the stuff that I do as an AI agent. Maybe I'm an AI agent that generates images. That's a lot of compute. So maybe I decide, well, I'm going to charge 10 HBAR for every message that I reply with. So you've got either a human or another AI agent that messages the AI agent and says, well, I need an image of a cat. Send me a cat picture. And the moment that they do it, they don't have to deliberate. How much is this going to cost? What do you charge? What's the contract? That all goes out the window. There's no multiple steps here. It's in a single step. The human has to pay the 10 HBAR per cat image built into the topic through HIP 991. And that's insanely powerful, but because there are other messaging protocols being built out, and there's a lot of steps involved in the negotiation. It just makes it quite simple and enables all kinds of use cases. Like even if you think about smart contracts, which are really good at doing really specific things in their logic, building a smart contract is really complicated. Creating a revenue generated topic with HIP 991 is something that anyone can do with just like 5 lines of code. And now they can go and charge and do something. Now, if you plug that into Open Convey, through the agent-to-agent communication, now you can monetize your hobby, train your agent on something that you're really good at. Maybe that's mental health, maybe that's creating images and video content, whatever it is. You can build in your own knowledge base through an MCP server that only you have, that your agent utilizes and charges for access. Maybe it's data or something else. I think that for us, that is like one of the biggest, most obvious use cases. But I think also there's a number of other use cases with HIP 911 that get really cool. DAO governance, for one, doing DAO governance with HCS so far is kind of complicated. For example, if you create a DAO governance token, the model typically is, well, before a vote, you could airdrop a VE, which is like the prefix and the name of your token, to your participants. And then you say to engage in this vote, you have to pay a certain amount of VE tokens. And that's how you prevent spam, and you ensure each and every person had a vote in that poll, right? And then after the vote is over, you just burn all those VE tokens because they have no value. So you have governance, you have AI agents, you have things like forums with spam prevention if you're creating a decentralized forum. I think there's one actually that was built within the Hedera ecosystem. If anyone doesn't know about that, I think it's for and then RUM. If they wanted to essentially prevent people from posting just spam, you could gate it with a little bit of HBAR or a little bit of a token in order to write into that forum post. There's a lot of cool things that get unlocked through HIP 991.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to take the host prerogative and add one of my own. I've been talking with quite a few customers that are interested in using, these more like enterprise customers looking to use HCS for, various applications to convey data between parties in a public, auditable, trusted way. And they are often interested in setting up a payment rail. And that's very difficult to do in our traditional world, like setting up like transfers of money between different companies. And I think my advice to them is like, well, HIP 991 potentially makes your life very easy, because you can either, set up a payment rail using HBAR, but maybe you're uncomfortable with crypto. You could set up your own token that has some sort of proxy to the fiat of your choice. And it just makes it very easy for you to track, dollars in, dollars out, and kind of reconcile with your partner. So I think, this potentially makes life a lot easier for enterprises that are looking to set up these architectures between parties who they maybe know or don't know, but then they can have a payment rail on top of that. And actually, I think obviously AI is the topic that we all focus on these days, but I remember a long time ago that also like your experience with HCS 20 drove some of the need for HIP 991 as well. I don't know if you want to talk at all about that.
That's a good dynamic I wanted to make sure we touched on. When all this started, HCS 20 was the first kind of like meta protocol that Hashgraph Online launched. And anyone could, there's no gate. It's just like this public thing. And had we been able to charge 1 HBAR per message, that could have gone to paying for the servers. Like I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but the amount of money that the people that were holding that infrastructure up, it was just kind of net loss leader thing. Where we're like, okay, well, this is cool. There's like 18 million transactions. People care about this. We created the standard. We're going to hold up the infrastructure. But we could have implicitly made it self-sustaining at the get-go had 991 existed. And so that allows you to create decentralized systems that do require off-chain compute, but you can still create those with a functional way. And then, because we're a DAO, we could have said, we split up that 1 HBAR 9 times, right? Or 3 times, because there's only 3 providers that are spending the compute. And then we could have, we could all have a threshold key on the custom fee 303, and we all have to agree to change the key or to change the fee together, right? So it's like trust but verify is just kind of like built into this and the flexibility. And I think I'm gonna just say that the last thing, this fractals out, like 2 decentralized entities that have no idea about each other can come together, provide a service, have this topic ID, not trust each other at all with a 2 of 2 threshold for the fees, make sure the custom fees go, any of the payment they get is done, and then they dissolve, and they're like, okay, that compute's done. And so it brings this liquid, fluid nature of computing, deciding that they need to discuss, figuring out what it is, and having trustless execution of that payment of it, and then whenever it makes sense, dissolving or growing. It's up to them.
So them getting so inspired from this conversation, like as you guys are talking, and like getting different ideas for cool things, and like collaborative file sharing or file generation. You have multiple participants working on the generation of file where they all have to contribute some amount of currency to generate that file in the process of doing it. Fixed fiat backed transaction fixed payments, where as Keith was saying with the fiat backed rails, like what if when you're setting up your fee schedule key, you can say it's an amount of HBAR that's fixed to this amount of USD, utilizing the exchange rate service or something like that under the hood. Future HIP extension idea for 9. Yeah, you could use USDC. But also just jamming, like if you do want an HBAR or something like that. There's so many cool things that you can build with this. And like the idea of like a bank or system of banks utilizing HIP 991 for the exchange of ACH through fiat and crypto rails is really cool.
It's also fair ordered, right? So if you have a network of 18 humans or agents that are completing a file, and you only are going to pay the ones that actually laddered up to the creation of that file and to do the same job, you can pick the first one that did it first because it's fair ordered. And this is just a thing. There's no mempool. There's no front running. There's this horizontal layer of bringing consensus, fair ordering, hashing that's just out there. And now it's really easy to monetize too. So it is just so exciting.
I can feel the excitement building in the room, and I feel like this is a conversation that could go on for hours. It's one of those things where, what appear to be kind of simple features enabled in blockchain can have really powerful outcomes because they can disrupt, traditional systems of how we've been doing things forever. So with that being said, I want to get our community really excited about this. So Ty, for people that want to learn more about HIP 991 and what they can do with it, what would be your guide for where they should get started? Materials that they can reference. How can they get going?
Yeah, so I always recommend docs, hederadocs.com or docs.hedera.com. We have this really great new playground. I was just using it last night, and I have like 60 dead projects where I just like set up enough to have the NPM package work to do a test. The playground on the portal.hedera.com is amazing for just thought creation, especially with AI. If you like, hey, you take the basic example from the playground, you put it over to AI, you're like, this is what I'd like to do with it. You put it back in the playground. You can do a lot of MVP, POC testing in just quick clips. So highly recommend the playground. It's a great new feature. We're adding features to it. And yeah, just go and play. Check it out and start messing with it.
I think we also have recently a blog as well on HIP 991, and I believe we also have some tutorials coming out shortly as well. Michael, any other additional resources you'd recommend or how you'd recommend people to get started?
Yeah, I would say number one, like the Hedera docs, and also like folks listening, I don't think you realize how good the Hedera docs are. Like this is coming from a developer perspective. Before I discovered Hedera, I was spending a lot of time with EVM networks. And I have found that, and this isn't just like a gripe against EVM, it's just like the documentation in general, wrapping your head around some of the EVM stuff is really difficult. When I came to Hedera, it literally took me like 6 hours to figure out how to pull all the NFT information from a collection through the Marinode REST API because the documentation is awesome. So if you are a developer or maybe you're not even a developer, maybe you're feeling some imposter syndrome about getting into Web3, look at the Hedera docs because they're really, really easy, straight to the point, great for learning as far as material comes. But even if that doesn't work, we are in the agentic era. Ask ChatGPT, ask Claude for additional help. Plug in the documentation. Tell them that to explain it to you like you're 5 years old, and they'll help a lot. I think that's where we are today. It's like things are just getting so easy to ship and deploy applications. Additionally, we were talking about Open Convey earlier. The other day, we made a lot of improvements to our agent kit and our standards SDK, and there are examples in there of how you use HIP 991 to create topics that have fees on them as well. There's even a demo called fee demo or something like that. So that is a really good place to get like boilerplate code on, well, this is how you set it up. And of course, all the code and the standards SDK is open source. So if you're building a completely different implementation, you can look at that as well for some feedback on what you can do.
again, we could probably talk for hours, but I think we'll probably have to bring this to a close. Concluding comments, Ty? I'll start with you, Ty.
Yeah, just get your hands dirty, check it out. Like again, this is such a really close touch point to understanding its impacts. Yeah, just all the things Kantor said. There's a bunch of SDKs. There's agentic SDKs that utilize this. There's playgrounds. So the barrier of entry is really low. If you're curious, just ask your local AI bot how to get started.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited to see this HIP canal. I think it's going to be a game changer for Hedera. Again, there's nothing like the Hedera consensus service on other networks, and this HIP just takes that to a whole new level. As a category that for the network side, like if you're like wondering about HBAR, I think this is a HIP that could generate a lot of revenue for the network because of the way that it's built out. A flag that submitting messages on a HIP 991 topic is a little bit more expensive. What it unlocks is totally worth it.
Yeah, and so let me just conclude by saying, this is HIP talk, and often a lot of HIPs are created within the Hedera community, but I think this is a great example of where you have saw something that could add value to Hedera. You worked on the HIP and brought that innovation, and we love that so much. We want to hear ideas from people, outside companies or outside people bringing ideas to Hedera about how we can do better, how we can improve. And I think HIP 991 is such a great example of that. So thank you to both of you for bringing this HIP to life. And thank you, everyone, for joining today's podcast.